Hey there, welcome back to Tennille Talks. You are an angler. You are a person whose hobby is trying to catch fish with a rod and line. A prophecy has been attached to your bloodline that speaks of you being the greatest angler in your family's lineage. The method of grooming great anglers begins between the ages of 18 months and 3 years old. This specific stage of human development revolves around ego identity, self-will, ambition, proactivity, and authentic self-empowerment. To assume your destined role and achieve the heights that have been prophesied over you, you must develop a sense of purpose, confidence, self-esteem, empowerment, emotional control, motivation, and risk-taking. Your caregivers were under strict and direct instruction. On the birthday of your 18th month of life, a rod and line must be placed in your hands to mark a rite of passage into assuming your destined identity. Once the rod touches an angler's fingertips at 18 months, there must never be a day that the developing angler does not engage in practice and in study with their rod. The greatest anglers must master proper casting techniques, master knots, and a variety of fishing gear. They must study the local fishing population, habitats, and the preferred times for fishing. Anglers understand water conditions. They adapt to the changing conditions of water. Anglers practice regularly. The prophecy is said to fulfill itself during your 42nd year of life. It is in this year that you will successfully catch and release a blue marlin. For many anglers, catching a blue marlin is their life's dream. In perfect conditions, the odds of catching a blue marlin is less than 5%. Blue marlins are apex predators, known for their size, strength, speed, and fighting style. For you, catching a blue marlin is fate. Fate meaning you cannot control the way things turn out. It was always written this way. You will catch the blue marlin. Your lineage and the future generations of anglers will forever be changed as a result of this catch. All right, let's begin the reading. So in this reading, we spiritually are going to consider the blue marlin to represent a demonic entity. Bloodlines and families are seeded with divine beings, beings that carry a specific energy, a specific skill set. The skill set and the power of divine beings have the ability to catch certain things. And so if we can look at the blue marlin as a demonic entity or an evil spirit that has been able to exist in your bloodline, you are the angler. You are the divine being that was sent to wrangle. Now, a part of you preparing and develop and evolving into your spiritual gifts means that at a specific age, when your solar plexus chakra is developing, your environment, the type of parenting you receive, the feedback you get from those raising you, it must grow you in a way that allows you to recognize who you are, that allows you to develop confidence in self. You are to catch a demon in your 42nd year of life that will forever change the history of your lineage. The way you live life up until age 42 matters. The prophecy says that at 18 months of life, something was to be given to you, done. There was an initiation of some sort. right? Just being able to touch the rod and the line meant that something was activated. Now, in this reading, I want you to imagine that the caretakers and the caregivers of a divine being in a specific family knew that this divine being was an angler. They knew that at 18 months, they had to give this divine being a rod and a line. This means that caregivers, parents, trusted adults that have been chosen to steward the life of a child were asked to develop this child in a way that favors their gifts, enhances their gifts. It reveals their gifts to them so that they grow comfortable with them. They never become ashamed, right? They feel empowered knowing that this is who they are. This is their ability. This is their strength. And this is how they are to express themselves in the world. They are the greatest angler to live in this bloodline. And they must know who they are, beginning at 18 months when a specific tool or a specific thing takes place in their life, right? Your caregivers were told to develop you in a certain way. There was an instruction. You came with a manual because you possessed something that people just didn't possess. That was the ability to slay a demon that has made its way through the souls and through the vessels of the beings in your family. Now, in order for this demon, for this entity to live again and again and again, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, and attach itself to the souls that are born in this specific bloodline, somebody had to have opened a door. In this reading, those that opened the door, those that allowed this demon that you were to slay in your 42nd year of life, right? This is the prophecy. It is written. Do this when this child is young, and this is the outcome when this child grows old. This is an outcome that can benefit all. This is an outcome of the Most High. This will happen. It cannot be changed. Now, digging into this reading, we have a mature woman. When we're talking about a mature woman, we're talking about somebody that is influential, right? This is a female. This could be a mother, an aunt, a boss, but it is somebody that people trust to be wise. They trust this person to be strong. Right now, this mature woman is stressed and strained and worried. There is a threat looming. Adversity is needed in this situation. The energy that this mature woman is feeling as a result, the energy that this mature woman is feeling is the result of the instruction and the direction that this mature woman was given about this angler. This angler was to catch a blue marlin. This angler has the strength, has the know-how to be able to do this. And in order to plant the seed, in order to initiate this rite of passage, so to speak, right? You have to behave a certain way. You have to care and nurture this angler a certain way. Now, the mechanism that God uses to build character is fire. Fire burns away impurities. If you have impure thoughts, impure feelings, and impure behaviors, but the Most High needs to access you, there are certain life experiences that you are going to be pulled through that will shed anything that distorts or disrupts your energy. When your energy is distorted and disrupted, it muffles the call. It muffles the communication between you and the Most High. So although this is a mature woman that people trust, and this is a mature woman that has influence and is wise, this is a mature woman that really can't hear from the Most High. And the Most High is not pleased with the way this mature woman is thinking and feeling and behaving. There was something that this woman knew. This woman was to remain teachable. This woman was supposed to be open to knowledge. This woman was supposed to pick up new wisdom. There was something that needed to be known. But this mature woman was stubborn and arrogant and selfish. This is somebody knowing that there is a prophecy attached to your life, recognizing that they have a role to play and refusing to play the role. And so this is a woman that has been able to be used by an entity. This is the spirit of somebody that opened a door. The Most High said, put the rod in the hands of this child at 18 months old. This woman said, no, I don't want to do that. Right? I don't want to do that. This is somebody that thought that they could do things their own way. And when I'm talking about doing things their own way, they thought that they could run your life. They thought that they could control, they could dictate, they could dominate the way the events of your life unfolded. The Most High has been patient with this specific soul. When we're talking about patience, patience teaches you to surrender with acceptance. Surrender with acceptance to a reality that you can't change. Right? Everything happens in divine order. If the Most High says this soul is an angler, this soul will catch a blue marlin, then you are a soul that will become the greatest angler, that will catch the blue marlin, that some people can only dream of catching. Somebody wanted to interrupt your prophecy, interrupt your flow. And this woman took the opportunity to do this when you were a child and in your youth, and say, on this day, in this reading, this literally marks a day of reckoning. The energy that I started to feel in yesterday's reading was very uneasy. Yesterday's reading was the crabs from Venus. Okay? And so in this reading, something happened to a child, a divine child, in their youth. They didn't receive what they properly should have received. But what this child went through, it was spiritually supposed to weaken them. It was supposed to weaken them so that they would not develop the skills and the abilities needed in order to slay the demon when they are 42 years old. Now, I don't know why 42 is significant, but it is, so it could be significant to somebody. It really wasn't significant to me. I did think about Jackie Robinson. Is Jackie Robinson 42 or 24? I'm not sure. But so here's the thing. Some people try to play God. Some people try to control God. Somebody is about to get dragged through the fire because of something that they did many, many, many moons ago. The thing is that I am recording and posting this reading on the full beaver moon, November 15th, 2024. In this reading, the full moon card comes out. Now, I want to share something personally with you all. The last 2 full moons that we have had leading up to this one today, in my personal life, 2 people close to me that I know have had a hand in betraying me. They have been an obstacle to me intentionally. On the last 2 full moons, each of those people experienced an isolated event with just them. On the first full moon, the first person, it was a car accident. Their car was totaled. Their vessel, their body was well, but their spirit was touched. The next full moon came. This person fell. Now, to fall down, it's like, okay. But when an elderly person falls, the risk of injury is heightened. Because why? At this point in age, your body is frail, right? So falling when you're 20, Falling when you're 40 is much different than falling when you're 77. And so two people close to my life, and y'all, you know I see, you know I read. I'm like, wow, full moon, car accident, full moon, a fall. This is the third full moon. And in this reading, on this day that I post, the full moon card comes out. The full moon talks about the culmination. You can consider this day to be a ceremony. And so each time that I watched people close to me on these most two recent full moons go through an event, I literally interpreted as I was watching a ceremony. I understood the energy. I understood that this was a completion of a cycle in time. And I needed to physically see it happen in front of me. Now, both people are fine. We're not celebrating anything, but what I'm saying is that there was a shift in energy that I needed to see. Now, I was there to support and offer whatever care I could to both people, although I know that they have betrayed me. But obviously, I was reading between the lines. And so today is the third full moon. When I clarified this card in the reading, I get death. And so death is an inevitable ending. Death can sometimes bring harm. It can bring pain. So y'all, I have known that this day in my personal life may bring something to me that I need to see, that I need to know about what happened in my youth. And so I feel like this is a reading about you being an angler in the rod, the power, right? Everything you needed to develop an identity, self-will, empowerment, ambition that was stolen from you, right? But this was intentionally, you were intentionally starved, intentionally restricted. The Most High said, this is a child that needs to be raised on this left-hand path, right? And imagine that the caregivers say, no, we're going to the right. And when we go to the right, we are going to favor the demon. So listen, to favor you, to abide by the instructions spoken over your life is to favor the Most High. But to go against the prophecy attached to you is to favor the demonic entity. And so there are two specific family members. This mature woman is not the only one feeling stressed and worried. No, she is not alone. There is a father. There is a father who is considered to be the thief, the main offender, the true culprit. This is the energy that is attached to death on this full moon, on this day. And so the reading says that you are standing on the fringe of a grand new existence. You are. This is when the rod will be returned to you. The rod physically, yes, we can think of a fishing rod, but this is an energy that was taken from you. And so the idea is they thought that if they could take this energy from you, then you wouldn't develop. And so stopping you from developing allowed them to come to an agreement of sorts with a demonic entity. And as long as they kept your rod hidden, as long as they kept the love away, as long as they kept you ostracized and neglected, as long as they didn't pour into you and really make sure that you developed, you would never grow into the version of you that you needed to become to have the strength to slay this entity. If they keep you weak, the entity keeps them strong. Keeping them strong means that they have prosperity, they have wealth, they have access to privilege, right? They get to live a life that you would live when you finally slay the entity, right? You slaying this demon offers a life of promise and prosperity to every angler that is born in this bloodline after you, right? This blue marlin needs to get caught. As an angler, when you are mastering your proper casting techniques and your knots and your fishing gear, you're mastering your warfare strategies. You're like, listen, this thing is fast, right? A blue marlin is known for its speed. They can grow to over 14 feet long and weigh more than 1,800 pounds. You can't be no lightweight and try to go after a blue marlin. You have to know what you're doing. So you need strategies. And the more time that you develop with the rod in your hand, you are becoming acclimated with your own energy. So that when the marlin comes and you feel the speed and you feel the strength, it doesn't instill fear in you because you've been doing this. Essentially, your entire life, you've been preparing for this specific catch. 42 years, this is what you came back for. 2 caregivers wanted to interrupt this. And they were offered bounty, so to speak, in order to do this. So here's the thing. You know how when children start to develop, and you can really see the moment in time where they really get a character. They get their personality, their humor, their wit. You can start to see it develop. And so between 18 months and 3 years old, your solar plexus is allowing you to confidently grow into yourself and assume your identity, right? Now, this is going to be a snowball effect over time, where you are just like, I'm an angler. I know I'm an angler. I'm confident. I'm strong. I'm not afraid to be an angler. I understand what blue marlins are. I understand what blue marlins have done to the lineage, right? But guess what? I can read the waters. I understand the subconscious programming in the shadow self. Guess what? I can adapt to changing conditions. I can be flexible during emotional upheavals that are caused by the witchcraft of this entity, right? I practice regularly. That means I recharge my energy. I regroup when my energy is depleted. I practice my alchemy, right? For you to be a divine being, practicing regularly for you means that every day you have 24 hours to learn how to maintain your emotional balance in the 24 hours that you were just given. Can you end the day in a balanced way? You have 24 hours to eat meat and spit out the bones. But you only have to look at those 24 hours. You only have to take the meat from those 24 hours, and then you collect those bones. That is what you must do as a divine being, but you do it in increments of 24 hours, right? And if you can continuously eat the meat, you build the strength to catch the marlin. And so imagine being starved. Imagine not being fed properly. I want to go over something real quick. You know, when your solar plexus chakra is not developed appropriately, or when it is hijacked, right? When somebody has interrupted your flow. Oh, did I take it down? Okay. I'll share it on another one. Don't worry. I'll share it on another one. Let me keep going. So the idea is to target your solar plexus chakra. So in spiritual warfare, in attacks, they always want to go after the lower 3 chakras because it is the strength and it is the balance of the lower 3 chakras that allows you to finally ascend into the heart space, into the throat chakra, into the crown chakra, into the third eye, right? But you have to be balanced. You have to be solid. Your lower 3 chakras are what keep you in karmic cycles or allow you to break out of karmic cycles and begin to really walk in your authenticity. And so you never were to become the authentic angler, right? If you were to grow into the angler, you would have slayed the entity. If you slay the entity, this changes the fate and the fortune and based on the agreement that these people made. So today marks an ending of a decision that was attached to a prophecy that couldn't be stopped, a prophecy that couldn't be changed. But this is something that you honestly, for much of your life at this point, have known something wasn't right, something wasn't done. Now you, in your own family, in your own skin, maybe you felt like an alien, maybe you felt like you belong. You could have energies that are just really highly sensitive. Earth is really harsh, right? Now, as a divine being, the way people relate, earthly relationships are extremely confusing. You could have had a relationship with either this mature woman or this mature man that was just confusing. You felt like you didn't belong to them. You felt like you were separate from them. This could be a mother and a father, but this was somebody where you just knew something was alien, something was off. And there was a harshness. There was a lack of sensitivity in the way this person connected to you, right? But you knew you couldn't change this situation. And so why would God attach you to people like this? Why would you need to be an angler in a family that would steal the rod that you would need to develop your skills? And why would it, somebody essentially stole your rod. They never wanted you to pick it up. And they thought, well, great. If they don't pick it up, well, then we reap the benefits. We are in agreement with the entity. We don't want this entity to be slayed, right? We don't want. And so here you come. Now, the father that I speak of, we talked about the mature woman, the father that I speak of, the issues with this specific father began long ago. This is some type of masculine energy. This doesn't have to be a biological father, right? But this could be a masculine that was a leader, a masculine that you trusted to provide and protect and to guide, right? The issues with this father began long ago, meaning that you have had many lives together. When souls reincarnate together, they incarnate in different roles, right? And so in this life, this is your father. In another life, you may have been their father. And so this is a soul level relationship where you two have come into this life together. And the drama, the saga that you are playing out is so severe that it is meant to break the negative patterns that you have been carrying with this soul lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. When this soul stole your rod, they stole your Ace of Cups. When you develop your personality between the ages of 18 months and 3 years old, your soul is, but when you start to feel empowered, when you know that you can take action and achieve your goals, right? When you feel warmth about yourself, when you think about yourself and you get excited, right? You kind of just, you morph into this divine being, and your identity becomes something that is comfortable with you. You feel like you belong in your own skin, but you may have felt alien, never truly able to get acclimated with your divine gift, because the energy, the environment, the nurturing and the care, whatever you needed during a specific time in your life, whatever you needed during that time, you didn't receive it. Now listen, this specific father is considered to be a thief. This is someone who is irresponsible because they took something. They removed something from you. What they removed from you was to take away your pleasure. It was to take away your happiness. Let's talk about the energy of an Ace of Cups. We always think about as new love. Well, between 18 months and 3 years old, imagine that the Divine Mother activates your seeds inside of you. All of the things that you will love in this life are going to be activated in your solar plexus. And so you need to be safe and confident in exploring the things that you care most about. But consider yourself to be a toddler during this time. Were you allowed to be you, to evolve, to develop? Right? Were the people raising you, did they have emotional control? If you want to raise a child that's emotionally in control, well, then you must be a caregiver that is emotionally in control. How else are they going to see what it looks like? And so think about your environment. Right? To become this angler, you need to understand that there are going to be certain times when you get out on the ocean's waters and those seas are not going to be calm. They will be rough. Can you fish when the seas are rough? Right? This is why certain families and this is why certain bloodlines are important for divine beings to be born in, because the demon that we have been sent to slay is not an easy one. People have tried and died again and again and again to catch this thing. You have been sent here for this reason and this reason alone. And so the fire, what we are pulled through, is really developing us for a specific moment in time where you are attached to a prophecy. And so when the Divine Mother fills your cup, between 18 months and 3 years old, you're getting your personality, right? An Ace of Cups is the bridge between heaven and earth because it's love. Love is what connects the two. Love is what reminds us that the spirit world exists, because much of the time, earth is very harsh and love is hard to be found. And so when you are full of love, that is an indication that the divine has planted pleasure inside of you. They have planted happiness inside of you that they want to grow. Your pleasure and your happiness is attached to you loving the fact that you are an angler. This is about you unapologetically being an angler. To catch a demon, this means when I'm talking about you being an angler, I'm talking about you having a spiritual calling. Whatever it is you're supposed to do on this earth, it involves religion and spirituality. Because how else do you catch a spiritual being if you are not spiritually equipped? And so you were spiritually robbed of a gift, an energy that you needed to properly develop as an angler. And it was your father, it was a father that could have done this, right? Now, the reason why you and this father or a father, whatever, have come into lives again and again and again is to help one another expand consciousness and awareness. And so if you are a being of light, darkness is what you need in order to understand that you carry light, right? Now, your rod was stolen. Stealing your rod, this mature woman and this father, the ones that stole the rod, they thought that if they took it from you, then you wouldn't be able to develop what you needed, right? You have an art form. But listen, the many lives that you have lived, you already mastered being an angler, which is why you were sent back again. And so the demon that you were to slay at 42 years old, you have slayed demons again and again and again, lifetime after lifetime after lifetime, which is why it was known that you needed to have a rod in your hand at a specific time. The rod, this is your weapon. You were a knight that was supposed to be given a sword at a certain time. Your sword was stolen. But because you had been a knight so many times, you had innate skills that honestly didn't even require training, right? These were inherent abilities that had been passed down from previous lives. And so imagine that you never got your rod between the ages of 18 and 3 months when your solar plexus chakra is developing. You never got your rod. But what did you get? What did you do? Because you already had that in you, because you could feel it in your soul, right? You had the codes of angler written all inside of you. It was inherent. So whether the rod was in your hand or not, you were always an angler. And so this is what you start to do. You pick up a popsicle stick and dental floss, and you try to make a rod. Doesn't work. But hey, you caught something, right? You didn't catch a blue marlin, but when you picked up that popsicle stick and that dental floss, hey, you caught a catfish. Fine. That doesn't work out. All right, now I got to grow some more. Well, now I'm going to get a wooden straw and a piece of yarn, right? And so you just start makeshifting rods because your body, your hands are blessed. Your hands are divine. They are revealing to you that, hey, you can do something. You have something. I know the rod isn't in your hand. I know you don't see it. I know it's not there. But your soul is constantly speaking to you and sending you the signals that say angler, 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 right? Which is why when you're creating or when you're doing things, it's mimicking something, right? But it's not really coming to fruition because there's something missing. But what is written is going to come to fruition, right? Everything will happen in divine order. Everything happens in divine order. No matter who tries to interrupt, intercede, or delay. Fate cannot be controlled. And so you used a wooden straw and yarn. You used a popsicle stick and dental floss, right? Think about all the ways in which you try to properly build a life. With the very little that you had, you were catching spotted sea trout, sunfish, largemouth bass. You weren't catching that blue marlin, but what you were doing was calling back your power from past lives, because in this life, they stole it from you. They took it from you. And so when you were supposed to be influenced by the divine mother, between that specific age frame, right? That was supposed to be an experience that connected you with heaven into earth. That was the moment that you were to become a bridge between one physical realm and then the spiritual realm. You were to be a bridge. The Ace of Cups, it makes you a bridge. Right? Imagine pouring water through a tube. The top of the tube is in the spirit world. The bottom of the tube is in the physical world. Everything that comes through that tube, that water, that Ace of Cups is love, emotion, inspiration, pleasure, happiness. And so when somebody stole from you, they essentially stole your tube that wouldn't allow you to develop those feelings of pleasure and self-love and confidence, right? They never wanted you to be able to have a tube. If you had the tube, if you could receive the energy, and if you could be influenced from the divine mother, then you would develop your skill. And so when they steal from you, they steal access, right? Your rod is access to something. It initiates you to something. This is a father that irresponsibly stole something. And today there is an inevitable ending. It marks a death. This is the culmination. This is the completion of the cycle in time when this first began. And so the prophecy of you becoming an angler was always going to happen. But this experience is also a prophecy. It is also a prophecy. Because this is how the consciousness and this is how the awareness truly evolves and expands. People do stupid shit and get stupid prizes. And what if today the prize is death? And even if it's not a physical death, even if it's not a transition, even if nobody leaves this world, what if there is something that happens in your life or something that happens in the lives of this mature woman and this father that marks the moment in time when your rod is returned? It's like all of those pretend rods, all of the rods that you were trying to make, All of the times that you attempted to find an ace of cups or to fill your cup, right? Every time you tried to find the right thing that fit you, all of those times they weren't for naught. And so no, you never got your rod, but you were activating and calling back your power. Every time you attempt to love on yourself, love your life, love your abilities, love your talents and your skills, every time you try to love yourself, you call back pieces of you that have been stolen. Yes? And every time you call back a piece of you, your consciousness expands. Your awareness grows little by little. And so right now you are standing on the fringe of a grand new existence. And it is because piece by piece, you called yourself back. And no, things weren't perfect. No, you never had what you needed at the time that you needed it. But what was in you couldn't have been taken. Physically, you didn't have what you needed, but your soul was always equipped. Your soul never lacked. Your soul never went without. And so there is an art that is living inside of you. There is a skill, there is a craft, and there is an ability that has been living inside of you. But because of the experience of your childhood, you may feel guilty just being who you are, unapologetically being who you are, right? To carry guilt means that your soul can't grow, right? Any belief that doesn't let your soul grow is a belief that you got to get rid of. And so when your rod was stolen, anytime you tried to pick up a life, anytime you tried to make a new rod or create something, it was almost like you were made fun of or you were made to feel ashamed, right? Nobody wanted you to follow your inner guidance, right? And so, yeah, they messed up your outer world, but you had an internal navigation system. Now it is time to unleash it. Now it is time to follow it. So today marks an ending of you not having access to your rod, of you trying to always pull and claw for the answers within. You know, this is when things become apparent. And so if you've been carrying around a belief, if you've been carrying around a worry that you've done something wrong, no, you were just trying to create rods, makeshift rods. You weren't doing anything wrong. And so if you've ever felt a failure, chasing love, trying to experience love, trying to call love, right? This is a message about love. This is about somebody who interrupted love for you. And the first love that was interrupted was your ability to love yourself. When you love yourself, you can be the greatest angler ever. And you will own it. And you'll have no fear about chasing the Marlin. You'll have no fear about getting on that boat. There's no weather system that can stop you from going after this Marlin. But because what you needed was stolen, because you didn't have love, they stole love from you. You try to find it and build it and create it in all the ways you can. And think about all the ways that we have failed at really just experiencing and developing ourselves with love, right? And when I talk about failure, I'm just thinking about all the times that we try and we failed. We fall down. We try and we fail down to the point that you start to feel like, what am I doing wrong? Why can't I get this right? Right? But it's not a personal thing. Something was actually done to you to snatch the tube so that you couldn't be the bridge, so that the spirit world couldn't pour into you emotionally, so that your waters couldn't be influenced by the Divine Mother. Something was actually done. Right? And so right now, you are about to know something. You are about to learn how something works, right? There is something that is about to happen that is going to be helpful for you. It may not feel good, but it will be what you needed. Maybe it will literally feel like the rod has been returned to your hand. But this is fate. And so whoever attempted to control the way things turned out, they were never able to control the fact that you have a universal connection with every cell of your body. And so what they restricted from you in the physical world, they couldn't even begin to touch in the spiritual world. It is in you. It is encoded in you. Every fiber of your being is an angler. And so this is the moment when the rod is returned. This is when love is returned. This is when your communication is clearly seen and felt and sensed between you and the world of spirit. This is when you can easily and naturally call down heaven to earth. There is no spiritual battle. There is no warfare that you won't win. Your rod has been returned. Right? In any battle that you feel like you may have lost, that was a battle where you need to pick up a new skill, right? You had to learn to fight a different way. You didn't have your rod. And so think about all the ways that you had slayed demons and you didn't even have your rod. Right? But now it's time to get the Marlin. Now it is time to get the Marlin. And although you have been living life without the rod, every skill, every ability, everything that you've ever needed to know, once you get on that boat and get on that water, is going to instantly click when your rod returns to your hands. And so your hands were casting. Even if you didn't have the rod, your hands never forgot how to cast. Your hands never forgot how to tie knots. Fate said that you were to have this new beginning, right? You were always supposed to have this new beginning where you have accuracy of perception, where you can see this clearly. You were always supposed to get to this point. And so what was stolen from you between the ages of 18 months and 3 years old is about to be returned. No matter what age you are now, this is a new beginning. This is a restart, so to speak, for your inner child. This is when your childhood gets to go through an initiation. I don't care how old you are. This can happen at any age. And so the understanding that you have now, you should know that it is okay to no longer feel guilty. You've done nothing wrong to anyone. You don't need to be worried about something that you mishandled. Anything in your life that unfolded, it was just you trying to learn to be what you innately have always been, even if you didn't have the tools and the skills to become it. Your rod was stolen, but the magic in your hands was always there. You were always going to catch this Marlin, whether you had your rod or not, and that is fate. And so today marks a day, specifically this full moon. And maybe nothing happens on this day for everyone, but this marks a day collectively where we will not move forward into our destiny until we deal with our issues. And so those people that you are attached to, that you have spent lifetime after lifetime after lifetime with in different roles, reincarnating, right? You have done this to break these negative patterns that you have been carrying with their soul. There is a reason why you have come back together. And it is about the consciousness and the awareness that you are carrying, and the fact that it must evolve. You must know who you are. You must know that you're the angler. You must know why you came here. And so what was stolen, what was robbed from you is being returned, but you have called it back in periods of 24 hours at a time, 24 hours after 24 hours after 24 hours. You have been calling back pieces of you. And maybe it felt like failure. Maybe it felt like heartbreak, right? Maybe it felt like power, all the ways in which we've gotten love wrong. For you, it just is. You will start to feel like love. I mean, let's say if love is money, you couldn't be broke if you wanted to in this next existence of your life. You couldn't be broke if you wanted to. Listen, you couldn't be without pleasure. You couldn't be without happiness. You couldn't be without joy if you wanted to in this next season of your life. This was a fated event. And so you are being asked to trust in your own mind, to trust in your imagination. Let yourself be unleashed. The rod has been returned. Step into the unknown. Everything is not yet revealed to you, and that is okay. But trust that it is safe to fantasize. It is safe to have visions. It is safe to imagine. It is safe to dream. Trust the universe and let go of the attachments. Right? It's hard to trust that it is safe to be you if you have experienced persecution. So, when your solar plexus is developing, when you're really starting to get imagination and your mind is wanting to kind of go wild as a little kid, imagine if sometimes everybody is like, don't do that. Don't say that. Don't think that. Don't behave that. Right? Don't. You never develop the confidence. And so this is about being suppressed and oppressed continuously. But this is being this is love. This is not having love, restricting you from love. Love is the rod that you need to follow your art form and to unleash your magic. And so they're like, fine, we'll just take the love away. We'll persecute you, right? We'll attack your character. We'll attack your behavior. We'll examine you publicly. We'll accuse you of witchcraft. We will force you to suffer greatly. Can you imagine that? People do evil on you and then accuse you of evil. And why was this important? Well, because it was supposed to interrupt your stability and your security. You were supposed to forget your will. You were supposed to forget your will, right? But your solar plexus, what is the point of it? What is the point of the solar plexus? What is the point in the way in which it develops? It's about your confidence. It's about your self-will. But when you were denied love, then you were never able to experience how love moves through you, right? The way love is expressed in all of our lives, it looks different. Right? For me, it's Tennille Talks, but for you, it's something else. But this is love coming through me. This is how it is expressed through me. This would be my art. And so me being guilty about speaking for decades, it was because something had been stolen from me. Something was stolen from me that I needed in order to feel safe to speak. Y'all, I'm going to tell you this in I didn't know if I should mention it. Okay. So I want y'all to think about, so far, if this reading is resonating with you, has anybody between the ages of 18 months and 3 years old gone through a major surgery? Has anybody gone through a major surgery between the ages of 18 months and 3 years old? I would like to say that I truly believe that in the event you have had something major happen, specifically medical, just because that is my personal experience. If you've had something major happen that's been medical, I feel like it is that event, if it happens during this age period, that splinters or fractures the soul. I think it is done to interrupt the development of something. Now, okay, there's a story that my maternal grandmother and my aunt, my mom's younger sister, they always used to tell me. They used to say, I think I was 17 months old, and they used to say that there was a period of time where I would try to cry. I would try to talk, right? Anything vocal. And they said that I would sound like a truck driver and that my throat was raspy. And they said that if I would call for my mom, I would be like, Mom, Mom, right? Like my voice, like it just, And so when they would tell this story, they would tell it in jest like it was a joke. Y'all, this reading was hard for me. And because I have to tell this, okay? So they would tell this story again and again. So I disconnected from my mother at age 11 or 12. I think when I turned 31, her and I were on a phone call together. It was my birthday. She was wishing me happy birthday. I don't know what got us back together, but I never really got to ask questions. So there are some stories that I heard. So when I had this conversation with her, I was kind of just asking her the things that had been lingering. And so I said, my aunt, my grandma, they had been telling me the story about when I was little and I would cry, it would sound weird or it would come out, whatever. And I'm telling her this, y'all. I wanted to know why. Oh, and here's the other part. So because it sounded that way, they told me that I had 9 surgeries on my vocal cords. And so I was growing polyps on my vocal cords. And the doctor said that they would not go away on their own until I hit puberty. Now, 9 surgeries and they were gone. I didn't have to wait until puberty, but they went away. But I starting to think, like, if I am supposed to be somebody that talks and speaks, right? And what if the very thing, what if my rod was my voice? What if my rod is my vocal cords? And so when I was to be developing in a certain way, I went through major surgeries. But y'all, the reason why I went through those surgeries, when my mom told me this conversation, the way she said it is equivalent to me being like, what time is it? And her being like, oh, it's 6:46. She kind of said it like this. I asked her, what happened to me and why did I have to get those surgeries? She explained to me she was working 2 jobs. She left me with her partner at the time. At 17 months old. And so what was developing on my vocal cords were a result of things that were being done to me when I was in the care of her partner. And I'm going to leave that there. I knew that that was something that I had to say. I don't know why I had to say it. I don't know who it connects to. I don't know if anybody else has had like a major surgery or like gone through something, but I really believe that what happened to me at 17 months old, that was essentially somebody allowing the very blue Marlin that I was supposed to slay at the age of 42 to come to me in my most vulnerable state and attack me. Right? And I feel like what I went through at 17 months, that was the period where my rod was stolen. And so, yeah, this reading was a little challenging. And y'all, there are more stories. I can't tell you how many lives I have lived in this one life. There are more stories that I have to tell you. Right? It's just what I'm supposed to do. But I've always kind of been bright and smart. And so what if as a child, what if, I spoke something at 11 or 12 that forever changed my life and I lost my mom because of it? Not in death, but just, me being able to have a life with her. I couldn't anymore. But y'all, that wasn't the first time. That wasn't the first time, right? And so as a little girl, they were after my voice. They were after my vocal cords. And I think about the two stupid women in my family who tell the story. I mean, y'all, they told this story for years. And it was only in my early 30s during a random birthday that I had a random conversation with my mother. And as easy as she could, she just said that to me. Right. And so now when she told me, and I'm like, what? And nothing happened. Like nobody did anything, And so she explains to me, and here's the thing, man. She's like, well, thank God I'm God-fearing now. Or, one things I really don't like when people do, when they should say, I'm sorry, I am weak. They don't say I'm sorry. They don't say I am weak or I was weak. They just call on God, right? They'll say, but God, or they'll just bring in. And I felt in that moment, I felt that my mother was escaping about something that had sexually been done to me as a little girl. Y'all, it took 9 surgery for these polyps not to return on my vocal cords. Now, my grandmother, who told this story for years, and they would joke about how I sounded. And so years later, anyway, when I found out the reason why, I go back to my grandmother and I go back to my aunt and I tell them, do you know the story that you've been telling? I finally talked to my mother and she tells me that I was actually sexually assaulted, and those 9 surgeries were to remove, the outcome of the injury. My grandmother says, oh, I don't believe that. You believe her? Y'all, that's what she said to me. I tell my aunt, and she says to me, you should never tell your new boyfriend what your last boyfriend did. Y'all, this is my family. And so let me just try to make sense of what my aunt was saying. When I spoke a truth at 11 or 12, she was saying that the reason why I went through what I went through and the reason why I could tell the truth I told at 11 or 12 is because something had happened to me earlier in my life. And because of what happened to me early in my life, my mother knew that, and she took that truth and she told it to her new husband. Well, her new husband, according to my aunt, this is how people think. If you tell them one thing, well, then they will consider it to be an invitation. I gotta kind of leave that there because I can't really rationalize or make sense of it. But this reading is big, and I know it's a personal reading for me, honestly, because I've seen what has happened these past full moons. And so when I got this reading, I'm like, God, I am not afraid of today, but some people are, and they should be. They absolutely should be. And so any persecution that you have had to go through, being mentally persecuted for having the mind that you have, if you can know that it's safe to exist in the way that you were divinely supposed to exist, I ask you to just exist, to trust that it is safe, even if you don't know what comes next, even if everything is not yet revealed. Know that when these issues are made known, it is a requirement for destiny to unfold. This is destiny, and destiny isn't always light, right? But in order to have the light, we need the dark. We need both, right? And both must be in balance for fate to naturally occur. The dark and the light must be in balance. And so this is a day where in some of our lives, the dark and the light is being balanced. Honestly and truly. All right, guys, I love y'all. I don't know. This reading kind of got me in my feels. I got it last night, Yeah. I kind of had to sit with it. because I'm just starting I'm 6 hours into my 24 hours, and I don't fear the day. But y'all, the last two full moons, I have seen it. I've seen it. I have seen it, y'all. And so I'm watching it in my life. Maybe you're watching it in your life. But if we can say anything about the full Beaver moon of November 15th, 2024, it is on this day that the rod is being returned. Not for one of us, but for all of us. This is a collective message. I love you so much. It is Friday. I'm not sure if I'll post Saturday or Sunday. Normally I don't, but there have been times that I have. I love you so much, and I'll see you on the next one. Have a beautiful weekend. Take care.